Hi, I'm Rod Hatt, and welcome to CCI's Coal Combustion class. Over the next dozen or so chapters, we're going to be studying the two basic concepts of combustion, and that is that you have to size the coal and add the air. Whenever you can make particle sizes smaller, it almost always is beneficial for the combustion process. And when we can add the air in the right amounts and the right positions, we can control that combustion process to get the results that we want. Over 40 years in studying coal combustion, I've learned two basic principles. You have to size the coal, and then you have to add the air. So it's very easy to say, size the coal and add the air. But when it comes to measurement of coal sizing or particle sizing of coal or measuring airflows, these can be somewhat more trickier or a little bit harder to do than me just saying it. If you have questions throughout this class or anytime around in operating coal combustion, please feel free to get a hold of me. Here's my office phone number and my email. So we can build a boiler and we can purchase coal. The combination of a boiler and a coal comes together in the combustion process. If we can get the combustion process set up right, we're going to alleviate a lot of other problems associated with the plant. So why is coal combustion important? Well, not unlike in car driving, it's where the tire meets the road. So the combustion process is we are first getting to utilize the energy in the coal. And if we don't get the combustion process right, we can suffer efficiency losses, we can suffer with corrosion or slagging issues, we can suffer with additional maintenance issues caused by poor combustion. There's any number of issues at a power plant that could take it offline and put it into a forced outage that are due to ill tuning or not recognizing a mishap in the combustion system. Now, one of the things I've learned throughout the years is you have to put your eyes on the situation. Sometimes looking into the boiler and observing the combustion process, although it's very big and you only get small glimpses of it from the corners, it can be very revealing in terms of looking at what could be going wrong with our combustion process. Sometimes I don't even need to do the engineering or technical measurements associated with a power plant to know that there's an issue. When I see sparklers up in the reheater going by, I'm going to be suspicious that either the air is low or the particle sizes are too big. If I see slag building up on the walls of a furnace, I'm going to suggest the particle sizes could be too big and the primary airflow perhaps too high. If I see issues with fouling deposits or deposits up in the convection pass, I'm going to suggest that the gas temperatures could be too high up there, making for the sticky ash. Now, coal quality is always influencing what's going on in the background. But sometimes we're stuck with the coal that's in the boiler. We don't get an option to switch over fuels on the fly, so we have to manage the situation that we're in on a 24 hours a day, minute by minute basis. So throughout this class, what I'm hoping to do is, one, provide operators the understanding of why coal combustion is behaving the way it does, and what, as an operator, you might be able to do to improve the situation. I'm going to spend a lot of time also with the engineering staff on how do we go ahead and measure and get some good quantifiable performance data from a power plant that might be affecting our combustion process. So things like fineness, air heater leakage, O2 measurements, all these things are going to be important and we'll be discussing. You can imagine that when working on combustion issues around a power plant, the money is big and the problems are complex. One of the issues is measuring coal quality. How do we even know what coal's going into the unit? Well, that was the first half of this training, the coal quality chapters 1 through 10. Now that you're stuck with this coal, what are we going to do about it? What can we do to modify our process that we can better accommodate a fuel? Sometimes we have the room to make those adjustments. Other times, it's very clear to me that this coal is unsuitable for this power plant when operating at the load and heat rate and the expected conditions that might come from a performance or design data. Sometimes there's millions of dollars of fuel saving costs available to us by utilizing different non-design spec fuels. Sometimes there's opportunities here when the price fluctuates and you can buy these more difficult to utilize fuels, but by incorporating some concepts about how do we improve the combustion process to burn these more difficult fuels, we can have relatively good success and save millions of dollars for our company and customers. So right away in my combustion career, I was faced with a power plant that had about 40 to 60% carbon in the fly ash. And this is concerning. It is probably about an 8 to 10% ash coal, so 50% of 10% of the material is combustible, meaning that we probably had a combustion efficiency, or we only got about 95% of the coal. Now we'll be going through all these calculations throughout the class, but I needed to try to address why is the carbon so high. And in this case, several things were incorporated. One was that the O2 measurements were using an average in the control room, and yet individual probes had high values and low values. Well, high values tend to overcombust the coal, and once you burn all the carbon, you can't do anything more except make additional NOx or higher temperatures. And then the low oxygen side didn't have enough oxygen to completely burn the carbon. That's where the LOI was coming from, that low oxygen side. So we spent some time balancing dampers and getting the air balanced in the power plant. We still weren't where we wanted to be, so we lowered the particle sizing of the coal going into the unit, and we were able to bring it down into a more manageable 5 or 10% LOI compared to the very high 50, 60 type numbers that we had originally. I can't tell you how often I've been able to look into the furnace and see heavy wall slags and suggest to the operator that perhaps the fineness is too coarse, in other words, large particles are reaching the wall, and the primary airflow is set too high. And so this could be an uphill battle because high primary airflow helps dry the coal better. It helps load response. When you're in load control, the pulverizer responds faster to load changes when it has high primary airflow. There's very little reject material coming from the bottom of the mill. All these things are advantages to high primary airflow, but I've seen high LOIs, additional wall slags, and poor fineness all being influenced by too high a primary airflow. Sometimes our designers and our engineering staff and our environmental people can actually try to tune a coal combustion process to too low of a NOx. If you go low in NOx, just think of like, okay, so I'm not burning the nitrogen. Am I impacting the burnability of the carbon and the iron and the sulfur and the other things that burn in a coal? I'm here to tell you that when sometimes we just focus on NOx, we forget about the fact that slagging went up because we didn't burn the iron. Potentially sulfide corrosions and water wall attack are occurring because we didn't have enough air in the furnace zone. Low NOx firing generally means poor combustion. And so good or proper low NOx firing means that we have to pay attention to the other combustion aspects: carbon utilization, slag formation, water wall deposits and corrosion, superheater deposits. All these things are playing a role in the total picture around a power plant. We'll even get into some details about blending coals, taking a high and low value of two different coals and trying to blend them together. We'll look at the different methodologies of blending, where you physically blend the coal before it gets to the plant, or we can even fire separate pulverizers on separate fuels and actually do the blending in the flame. But if you have different calorific value coals and you are blending in the flame, there is probably an opportunity to make adjustments to get the air to fuel ratio more closely set right at the flame front or at the burner front. So all these were just little stories throughout the years where either millions of dollars of losses or millions of dollars of savings have been available to a power company, but it really took a better understanding and a better handling of the combustion process to take advantage of either solving the problems or lower cost fuels. I look forward to working with you guys. This is just a introduction to the types of things we might be talking about or the challenges that will be faced